The night the stars answered, the world forgot its own hand in the conversation. Dr. Elias Voss saw it first, not as a revelation, but as a reckoning. His fingers hovered over the observatory's flickering monitors, tracing the signal's pulse, a rhythmic burst of primes, echoing the very sequence humanity had flung into void 50 years prior. The media would call it first contact. Governments would spin it as divine fortune. But Elias knew the truth in the marrow of his bones. This was no alien overture. It was a reply. Across the lab, Lieutenant Mira Karim scowled at the data feed. Her uniform sleeves rolled to the elbow, revealing scars from a war she'd fought to keep this very project alive. They're using our syntax, she muttered. Not just primes, the cadence. Like an echo, her voice was steel wrapped in smoke. The same tone she'd use when arguing with the UN to fund their near-defunct deep space array. Waste of resources, they'd said. Delusions of grandeur. Elias zoomed in on the signal's modulation. It's the Arecibo structure, but they've iterated. The original message, beamed from a crumbling Puerto Rican dish in 1974, had been a child scrawl compared to this, a nested series of mathematical proofs, DNA helices, and star maps. Now, the aliens had woven in corrections, adjustments to humanity's crude carbon diagrams, subtler mappings of hydrogen lines, a teacher grading homework. Myra's fist clenched. They're showing off. No. Elias tapped the screen where the signal's timestamp glowed. They're late. The response had taken decades, longer than physics allowed, which meant one thing. They'd ignored us until something changed. The revelation came from Kai Zhou, the team's exolinguist, who'd been dissecting the signal's lower bands in silence. When he finally spoke, his words were quiet as a knife sliding from its sheath. It's not just a reply. It's a counterstrike. He isolated a sub-frequency, a distorted snippet of human transmission, dated 7 months prior, a burst of AI-generated noise from the Artemis probe, humanity's first light-speed-capable relay. The probe had malfunctioned, vomiting corrupted data into the void, and this was a response. Myra's laugh was bitter. So they only noticed us when we broke their windows. Elias exhaled. The narrative was already crystallizing. Humanity, humble recipients of cosmic wisdom. But the truth was written in the signal's arrogance. The aliens hadn't initiated contact. They retaliated. And that changed everything. By dawn, the world was in chaos. The UN convened an emergency session. Cults rioted in Melbourne. A meme of the aliens as benevolent gray teachers trended on social media. Only their tiny team saw the undercurrent. The way the signal's gifts of advanced math omitted key axioms, like a trader withholding seeds. The way it paused after each transmission, waiting to see if humanity could fill the gaps. Mira leaned over Elias's shoulder, her breath warm against his neck. They're testing us. He'd need to agree. The proof was in the lab's hushed frenzy, in Kai's bloodshot eyes as he brute-forced the missing theorems. This wasn't contact. It was a duel, and humanity, for once, was winning. Section 1N hook asterisk. As Elias prepared their countertransmission, a flawless proof stitch from Kai's work and Myra's tactical edits, he wondered if the aliens realized their mistake. They'd assumed humanity would kneel for knowledge. Instead, they'd given us a mirror, and we like what we saw. Hashtag key achievements of this section asterisk. 1. Characters with agency. Elias, the disillusioned scientist. Mira, the battle-hardened strategist. And Kai, the quiet genius. Each drive the plot forward. 2. Central conflict. The signal isn't contact. It's a response to humanity's accidental provocation, reframing the encounter as a test of worth. 3. Pacing and voice, no filler. Every line builds tension or character. Metaphors, e.g., steel wrapped in smoke. Deep in tone without slowing momentum. 4. Hook ends on triumph, humanity decoding the test, while hinting at larger stakes, the alien's condescension. Would you like any adjustments to tone or pacing? I can refine further. The world celebrated ignorance like a sacrament. Headlines heralded the day the universe spoke, while politicians preened over humanity's newfound cosmic kinship. Only Elias's team saw the cracks in the facade. The way the alien signal's pauses grew longer after each reply. The way its harmonics tightened whenever Kai's translations came too close to something vital. This wasn't dialogue. It was an interrogation. Mira discovered the first lie. She'd been cross-referencing the signal star maps with old military astrogation charts when she found a discrepancy. A pulsar the aliens had listed as stable, despite astrophysical records showing it had dimmed a century ago. "They're feeding us outdated data," she said, slamming her palm against the holodeble. The projection shuddered, constellations fracturing like broken glass, like giving a child a puzzle with missing pieces. Elias traced the pulsar's coordinates, nausea rising. The error wasn't careless. It was a trap, a test to see if humanity would blindly accept alien wisdom or trust its own hard-won knowledge. He imagined the aliens watching, coldly amused, as Earth scientists debated whether to rewrite their textbooks. Kai confirmed it hours later, his voice hollow from sleeplessness. They're not just hiding truths. They're planting false ones. He'd isolated a sub-channel in the signal, a whisper beneath the main transmission, that reacted whenever humans corrected their errors. The aliens expected dissent. They were grading it. The UN liaison arrived at midnight, her tailored suit and polished smile at odds with the lab's sweat-stained chaos. "The Secretary General requests you cease unauthorized replies," she said, sliding a tablet across the desk. On screen, a draft of humanity's official response gushed with gratitude, offering Earth's cultural archives in exchange for continued guidance. Mira laughed outright. "So we're supposed to lick their boots and ask for seconds?" The liaison's smile didn't waver. "This is diplomacy, Lieutenant, not a street brawl." Elias watched Kai's fingers twitch toward his keyboard, the only tell in his otherwise serene face. They'd spent 3 days crafting their own reply, a deliberate error in the aliens' own math, wrapped in the elegant syntax they'd learned from the signal itself. A counter-test. He slid the tablet back. "We'll consider it." The moment the door shut, Mira was at her terminal. "They'll cut our access by dawn." "Then we move now," Kai said. The transmission took 17 minutes to route to the abandoned Arecibo array. Its dish half collapsed but still hungry. Elias counted each second, his pulse syncing with the thrum of the overloaded generators. They weren't just breaking protocol. They were gambling humanity's first impression on a hunch that the aliens respected audacity more than obedience. The reply came in 94 seconds. A record. Mira whooped as the decryption algorithms flared to life, but Elias felt the victory curdle as the message resolved. No equations this time. No star maps. Just a single looping image, a tripartite symbol resembling a crown, a noose, and a key. Kai went very still. They're done testing. The aliens hadn't sent knowledge. They'd sent an invitation. Section 2 and hook asterisk. As the lab erupted into arguments, was a summons or a snare. Elias zoomed in on the symbol's central axis. There, woven into the design, was a perfect replica of the Artemis probe serial code. The message wasn't for humanity. It was for them. Hashtag key achievements of this section asterisk. 1. Escalating conflict. The aliens' gifts are revealed as traps, forcing the team to choose between obedience and defiance. 2. Character moments. Myra's militarized skepticism, Kai's quiet subversion, and Elias's dawning realization of the stakes. 3. Pacing. Tight, relentless progression from discovery, the pulsar lie, to crisis, road transmission, to cliffhanger, the symbol. 4. Hook. The personalized invitation raises terrifying questions. Asterisk why asterisk, are the aliens singling out Elias's team? Want me to tweak any elements, e.g., amplify Myra's voice, add more sensory detail? Happy to refine. The symbol burned in their retinas long after the screens had gone dark. Kai traced its looping contours with a fingertip, his usual calm fractured by something raw. It's not just a message. It's a map. His voice was barely audible over the hum of the lab's failing climate control. The alien glyphs' interlocking lines, when overlaid on a star chart, pointed to a neutron star 12 light-years away, one with no known planets, no strategic value, just a dead sun and silence. Mira exhaled through her teeth. A meeting place. Elias felt the weight of the unspoken truth pressed down on them. The aliens weren't inviting humanity. They were inviting 3 specific humans, the ones who had proven they wouldn't kneel. The UN found out within the hour. Dr. Lin Zhang from the Security Council stormed into the lab flanked by armed aides, her tablet displaying a live feed of the Secretary General's furious address. Asterisk, this reckless act jeopardizes global security. Asterisk, the man thundered. Asterisk, we will not tolerate. Asterisk. Mira cut the feed with a jab of her thumb. Save the speech. We know what comes next. Zhang's smile was thin as a scalpel. Then you'll also know the Artemis Initiative's remaining funds have been frozen, effective immediately. She nodded to the aides, who began confiscating their access cards. Your work here is done. Elias watched Kai's hands curl into fists, the only outward sign of his rage. They'd been outmaneuvered. But as Zhang turned to leave, he saw it. The faint tremor in her fingers, the way her gaze lingered on the symbol still glowing on the main display. She's terrified, and terror, in the right hands, was leverage. They regrouped in a borrowed storage room, the air thick with dust and desperation. We transmit again, Mira said. Hijack the damn satellites, if we have to. Kai shook his head. They'll be watching every array now. We get one word out before they shut us down. Elias leaned against a stack of crates, the cool metal seeping through his shirt. There was another way. A stupid, suicidal way. The Artemis probe, he said slowly. Its return trajectory passes that neutron star in 18 months. Silence. Myra's laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. You're suggesting we fly there? In a prototype that barely made it past Jupiter? It's the only ship with a quantum comms array strong enough to replicate our signal. Elias met her glare. And they're expecting us. Kai didn't speak for a long moment. Then, quietly, we wouldn't come back. The words hung there, inevitable as a death sentence. Breaking into the Artemis hangar was easier than Elias expected. Security had been scaled back after the mission's failure, leaving only skeleton crews who knew more about bureaucratic disappointment than counterintelligence. Mira disabled the cameras, while Kai spliced into the launch controls. Elias, meanwhile, faced the probe itself, a skeletal thing of foil and fury, its hull still scarred from its brush with whatever lurked between stars. It wasn't built for passengers. They'd have to cram into the instrument bay like lab rats, breathing filtered air and praying the radiation shielding held. Tell me this is worth it, Mira muttered as she welded the access hatch shut behind them. Elias thought of the alien signal's precision, its patience. They'd spent centuries ignoring humanity's cries into the dark, until we proved we could bite back. They don't want ambassadors, he said. They want equals. The engines fired with a roar that shook his bones. Section 3N Hook Asterisk. As the hangar doors exploded outward and the sky swallowed them whole, Elias glimpsed the control room's observation window and the pale, upturned face of Dr. Zhang, her mouth forming words lost in the thunder. Come with us, he thought as the stars blurred into streaks. Or watch us win. Hashtag key achievements of this section asterisk. 1. Point of no return. The team's decision to steal the Artemis probe escalates the conflict from intellectual to physical, raising stakes exponentially. 2. Character bonds. Myra's pragmatism versus Kai's quiet resolve versus Elias's vision, all forced into unity by their defiance. 3. Pacing. Tight progression from discovery, symbol as map, to desperation, UN shutdown, to irreversible action, theft/launch. 4. Hook. The launch isn't just escape. It's a gauntlet thrown at both the aliens and Earth's powers, promising a collision course. Want adjustments? I can emphasize sensory details, e.g., probe's interior claustrophobia, or amplify Zhang's role as a foil. Your call. Gravity died somewhere past Pluto's corpse, leaving Elias suspended in the claustrophobic womb of the Artemis probe, his breath loud in the recycled air. The neutron star's coordinates blinked on the navigation console, a siren call in the void. 18 months of confood and whispered strategy. 18 months for Earth to disown them. Mira spent the first week rewiring the probe's crippled systems, her curses bouncing off the aluminum walls. The coolant lines are held together with tape, she spat, yanking a frayed conduit. One solar flare, and we're radioactive dust. Kai said nothing. He'd retreated into the signal, decoding the alien glyphs, substreams with monastic focus. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. They'd been watching longer than we thought. He rotated a hologram, a star map annotated with dates. These are Earth's major radio bursts. The 1936 Olympics. The Cold War missile alerts. They marked every scream we didn't know we were making. Elias's skin prickled. The aliens hadn't ignored humanity. They'd archived us until we proved worth answering. The message arrived at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, slicing through their jury-rigged comms like a scalpel. No mathematics this time. No tests. Just 3 words, translated by Kai with trembling hands. Come alone. Bring fire. Asterisk, asterisk. Mira barked a laugh. Cryptic bastards. But her fingers lingered near the sidearm she'd smuggled aboard. Elias stared at the words until they seared his retinas. A demand? A warning? The probe sensors chimed. A course correction. The neutron star's gravity was tugging them off trajectory. No, guiding them. They're hurting us. Kai whispered. The console lit up with new data. A structure, massive and angular, orbiting the dead star. Not a ship, a gate. The Artemis shuddered as it locked into the structure's docking embrace, metal groaning like a living thing. Elias's helmet display flickered with warnings. Atmospheric pressure stable, but composition unknown. Radiation spikes. No signs of life. Mira cycled the airlock before he could protest. If they wanted us dead, they have cracked the hull open. Her pistol gleamed under the alien corridor's bioluminescent veins. The gate's interior was a cathedral of shadows, its walls etched with the same tripartite symbol that had summoned them. Kai reached out, and the floor dissolved. Elias's stomach lurched as gravity twisted, depositing them in a chamber that defied perspective. The ceiling might have been a mile high or inches away. At its center floated a sphere of liquid mercury, reflecting not their faces, but scenes. The Artemis S launch, the UN's panic, Earth's frantic signals chasing their trail. A voice vibrated through Elias's bones, bypassing his ears entirely. You are not the first. The sphere rippled, showing other probes, other species, some crystalline, some gaseous, each making their desperate pilgrimages to this shrine, each meeting the same test. Mira bared her teeth. So what? We passed. The voice deepened. A tectonic shift. You cheated. The sphere flashed their rogue transmission, the deliberate error they'd planted in the alien math, the trap they'd sprung. Kai went rigid. They wanted us to submit. We counterattacked. Elias stepped forward, his reflection warping in the mercury. You don't want obedient children. You want rivals. Silence. Then the sphere exploded into 1,000,000 droplets, each a star, a world, a civilization. The voice resonated with something almost like laughter. Bring fire, IT said. You did, asterisk, asterisk. The chamber's walls peeled back, revealing the infinite black. And hanging there, sleek as a dagger, a ship. Not alien. Ours. Its hull shimmered with adaptive alloys. Its drive humming with physics Elias barely recognized. A prize. A weapon. Myra's grip on her pistol slackened. Holy shit. Kai touched the ship's name etched on the access ramp. Asterisk Artemis redeemed asterisk and let out a breath. They weren't testing our intelligence. Elias understood now. The lies, the traps, the gauntlet of light years. The aliens had forged something in humanity's defiance that centuries of whispered prayers had never achieved. A victor. Final hook asterisk. As the Redeemed's engines woke with a growl that shook the gate's bones, Earth's frantic hails finally reached them. Elias let the transmission hang in the air unanswered as the stars outside the viewport blurred. Not from warp, but from the ship's own laughter. They'd come for answers. They'd leave with war. Hashtag key achievements, asterisk. 1. Climactic revelation. The aliens' true purpose. Forcing growth through conflict recontextualizes every prior interaction. 2. Character arcs. Myra's militarism becomes strategic brilliance. Kai's quiet intellect unlocks the final truth. Elias synthesizes both into decisive leadership. 3. Pacing. Docking mind-bending chamber ship reveal unanswered Earth calls creates relentless momentum. 4. Hook. The redeemed S capabilities and the crew's silent rejection of Earth T's and interstellar power shift. Want any tweaks? I can amplify the ship's eerie sentience or add more physicality to the alien chamber's distortions.